Revvie Awards.
We're back with our panel, Robert Traham, Joan Walsh, Dean Obadala, and Jason Johnson. We turn now to the best political speech of the year, with a lot of courageous Americans taking a stand. Several came to mind, including President Obama's farewell speech to the country, Senator John McCain's Liberty Medal speech condemning what he called, quote, half-baked, spurious nationalism, and President George W. Bush's speeches to reject white supremacy. But what stood out to me was former New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu announcing the removal of Confederate statues from his city. Take a listen.
Fictional sanitized Confederacy, ignoring the death, ignoring the enslavement, ignoring the terror that it actually stood for. And after the Civil War, these monuments were part of that terrorism, as much as burning a cross on someone's lawn. They were erected purposefully to send a strong message to all who walked in the shadows about who was still in charge in this city.
Best political speech. Let's see what the panel thinks. You know, this is sensitive to me as a speaker, so be careful. Robert?
I have two very quickly. John McCain on the Senate floor in July of 2017, where he talked about the best of this country and talked about how we all, meaning senators and also Americans, need to rise up to the occasion. The second one you mentioned a few moments ago, Rev, George W. Bush, when he spoke and denounced white supremacy, challenged his own party, our own party, the Republican Party. It was Americans at its best. It was presidential leadership at its best, eloquent, direct, to the point, but also not afraid to talk about our shortcomings and saying that we could rise upon it.
You know, Jason, when former President Bush made that speech, I couldn't help but think about when he was president and some of us would talk about white supremacy, we were considered extremists to even use the term.
Yes.
So you can imagine I'm like saying I can't be hearing this. I'm messing with the remote that there's something going on wrong with my set. To hear George Bush literally talk about white supremacy and calling it that.
I was impressed. And I think it's indicative of where this country got to. And bear in mind, George Bush, for all the horrendous policies that he put through, I mean, he did push out Trent Lott for basically giving a speech saying, hey, things were better back when white supremacy was going on. But believe it or not, and I know this is going to sound counterintuitive, the big speech for me, believe it or not, was the president's inauguration speech. And the reason why I say that, when he talked about the devastated city and all these horrible things happening in America, because I think this country and the world needed to realize what we were facing. There was a tendency after Donald Trump got elected for people to say, well, it can't be that bad. He won't be that terrible. He'll work it out. No, that speech showed us what kind of person we were going to get in the White House.
You're talking about his inaugural speech in front of the 5 million people
exactly,
that were there.
Exactly.
The largest crowd.
Yes, the 50 zillion people who were actually there, more than the Super Bowl, in fact. I thought that was a really, really important speech. America needed to face the man who was in the White House. And it set the stage for all of the resistance, all of the pushback that's happened through the year. If Donald Trump had learned anything, if Donald Trump had given a savvy, moderate speech the moment he came into office, we wouldn't be where we are today. People would have tried to pretend that he was someone who could be worked with rather than the extremist that he is.